So what do you do when you go 5 days with no sun and you rely on your home solar system to provide all its electricity?
Stay tuned to find out.
Oh boy, we knew this day would come.
Yes, eventually.
So this little background for new viewers. We have a solar system on our roof. It's a hybrid system. We right-sized it for this home, meaning it handles all our electricity needs, but we did not oversize it because we're on a budget. So we typically make more every day, meaning make more electricity than we use. So the system is definitely right-sized. You could say it's a little oversized, but not by much. We tried to dial it in because, again, we're on a budget. So what we typically do is at night, we go to battery storage, and we wake up in the morning and it's anywhere from 50 to 60% battery life left. So it charges to 100% during the day. We've had this system now for almost 1 year, and every day out of the year except for one early on, the battery's always at 100% when the sun goes down. One day out of 365 days, I think we were at 93% because it was pretty cloudy all day long and the battery only got to 93%. So for all intents and purposes, we were at 100% every day. And then once the sun goes down, all the electricity needs for the house comes from the battery. And we wake up in the morning, say 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun is just coming up and the battery's at 50 to 60%, what they call SOC, state of charge. So it's right-sized. You could say it's a little bit oversized maybe because we typically make, and this varies, about 20,000 watts, 20 kilowatts a day, and we use about 18. So again, the system is making a little bit more than what we use. So call it dialed in pretty close. Now, since we have a hybrid system, we are also hooked to the grid. So the system is hooked to the grid. We have our own transformer. And the reason why we wanted our own transformer is because we wanted clean power, 220, coming into the home. Typically, when you share a transformer with multiple people, they put too many homes here in the Philippines on one transformer. Say, for example, your neighbor starts welding, the lights in your house will dim, will flicker, or if a lot of people have their air cons on, you will not get 220 coming into your house. You'll get less than that. As a matter of fact, when we was building this home, we had an apartment not too far from here, and I had a gauge to be able to tell me how much power was coming to the house, and we were typically getting 190, and that's not good for your electronics. So a lot of people say that the power company ruins their electronics. Well, it's because you're probably sharing a transformer with multiple homes. So they are sending out 220, but you're not getting 220 in your specific home. So with that being said, we have that backup. Now, we also had a second backup, which I think is key.
Yes.
And many people said it wasn't needed, but we're going to talk about it today because it was definitely needed during this 5-day stint. We had a couple of typhoons up well north of the Philippines, and that drew in some monsoonal rain from like the Vietnam area, and it pulled up going northeast, and we were in a trough of rain for 5 days. We have not seen the sun in 5 days. So with the electricity being out here,
for 4 days now,
brownout in this area, this immediate area for 4 consecutive days, meaning our solar system would have to handle everything if we didn't have a generator, because when the battery gets down to 30%, if it does, and it never has done it yet, remember, 50 to 60% is the low that it goes. So if it does get to 30%, it shuts off automatically. It's a safety feature. And then it would automatically, with the ATS, automatic transfer switch to the grid. Well, if it did that, guess what? We're in a brownout for 4 days. There's no grid to take over.
No.
So that's where the generator kicks in. All right, so first thing we want to disclose to everyone is we did not prepare that well. The generator, I do start every couple of weeks, and I keep it full of fuel, so that's a good thing. But we never did test running the generator to charge our solar battery.
No.
We never did it. We knew that we needed to do it, but we just didn't do it. So shame on us. So what happened was, and I have some notes just to let you know how we were forced into learning very quickly how to charge our batteries or battery in our solar system with the generator. So day one, we woke up at 62% state of charge. And the battery did throughout the day get to 100%, because even when it's raining, you're still making 400, 500, 600, 700 watts, sometimes even up to 1,500 to 2,000 watts if the sky is bright and it's a light rain. So the first day, it was light enough rain to sneak our battery up to 100%. So we were happy. We were saying, okay, we're at 100%. We don't need to do anything. Well, the next day, it was a downpour all day long.
Windy.
Very windy. Again, day two of no electricity up here in our area. So we have no backup system, meaning the grid. And the battery throughout the day, because we woke up and I think it was in the 50s, it was in the low 50s. And throughout the day, you know, you're using the TV, you got maybe a fan or two going. You know, just throughout the day, you're using water, like flushing toilets and things like that, taking showers. So the well pump's kicking on. You know, you're just using electricity. The battery got to 33%.
That was scary.
So I was watching it all day, and I was just, you know, hoping that the power would come back on, and then we'd be okay. But the power didn't. So I know that at 30%, our system automatically shuts down. So we were 3% away. So I had to quickly go on YouTube University. I watched, I think, 3 or 4 videos, and I found one gentleman video. He was actually from Germany, and he had the exact same inverter that we had. And he lives in Germany. He's not here in the Philippines. And he had an excellent video, and it kind of explained what to do. So I watched that video twice, and then I went out and did my due diligence, and I got it to work. So I'm going to go ahead and explain that to you today. But let me just run through the numbers. So we were at 33%. So I was able to get the generator up and running and make some adjustments in the inverter, which I'm going to show you. And we were able to charge the battery, very, very impressed, from 33%. And it was late in the afternoon. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so the sun was starting to go down. We got it to 100% in 2 hours.
Yes, that was pretty good.
So our generator charged our battery that was at 33% state of charge to 100% in 2 hours. So that's not long at all. Day 3, we woke up, we were at 50%. So we must have used a little more electricity that night. And throughout the day, we got to 84%. So not bad. So again, the sun must have been just coming in and out a little bit. And it took us only 20 minutes. I waited to 5 p.m., which is basically when the sun goes over the mountain behind us and you're not creating any more electricity. So I let the solar do its thing throughout the day. And we charged up the battery to 100% in 20 minutes. Then day 4, still no power. Day 4, no power up here. We woke up to 52%. Okay, pretty typical. And it only got to 76% throughout the day. Again, I didn't turn the generator on throughout the day because you're making electricity and you are charging the battery just a little at a time. So throughout the day, I waited again to like 5 p.m. where, again, the system is not making any electricity because the sun is over the mountain. And I went from 76% to 100% in just 40 minutes. So again, it's a very efficient way to use your generator to charge your battery during times, typhoons, monsoons, low pressure systems, just really heavy cloud cover when your grid is down and the solar is just not making enough. So I will say that even with the rain, and I mentioned this earlier in this video, you are making 400, 500, 600, 700, sometimes 1,000, 1,500. And if you're careful with your electricity use, you know, we could go all day with just normal, no pool pump on, but about 500 watts. That's about average. 500 watts keeps the refrigerator going, keeps your, a couple fans and your maybe a TV running. You can limp through the day using about 500 watts continuous throughout the day. And if you're making, say, 700, you're fine throughout the day, but it's the nighttime. That's what you have to consider, where your system is not making 700, it's making 0, and then you're just drawing that battery. So you really need to have a goal of getting your batteries to 100%, or at least close to 100%, when the sun goes down. Now, I will say with this 5-day stint of no sun, Wilma and I are considering buying a second battery. That would help. However, we still would need to use generator backup.
Yes,
we
definitely.
Probably would just, instead of, remember I said day 1 I was fine, we got to day 2, we probably would need to go to the generator day 3. Probably need the 3rd day of no sun, having an extra battery. Now the batteries are expensive. The batteries that we use are 200 amp hour, 10.1 kilowatts or something like that, 10,000 watts. And they're over 100,000 pesos. So they're more than $2,000 per battery. So it's very easy to say, just add another battery.
Yeah, sure.
But $2,000 is a lot of money for something that happens once a year. This perfect storm of 5 days of no sun,
no power,
and no power for 5 days, doesn't happen often. So do you want to spend $2,000 for an event that happens once a year? I don't know. We're going to consider that. But the fact that we have a generator that only cost us $600, with a little bit of inconvenience of going out there and starting it and making a couple setting changes in your inverter, can charge your battery. And the only benefit of having that second battery really is that you would have to go to doing the charge of the generator on day 3 instead of day 2. So it's a big consideration, and we'll think about it.
We'll see.
We'll talk about it and see if we want to do that. So the first thing I want to do is take you out to where we have our generator set up and show you that system. All right, so here's our generator. We bought this right when we built the house. It's a greenfield model. Any generator obviously will do. It's 6,500 startup and about 6,000 watt continuous. It runs off of gasoline. And it's very noisy, so you wouldn't want it as your primary backup system. We're using it just to charge our battery. So we have it hooked up very simply. Some people actually have it hooked up more professionally, but it basically just goes through underneath. It comes up to a manual transfer switch. So this is very important for safety. So real quick, this is our main from the grid, Noriko. You can see it's on and the generator is off. So this main wire goes up, or actually no, goes down and goes underground and goes all the way to our transformer. There's our transformer. And our neighbor's transformer was just installed, but there they are, the transformer. So the grid power comes in underground, comes up, goes to this main line, comes over and is hooked to the generator main line, and then one wire goes up into the ceiling and goes down into the main panel to run the house. So when the power Noriko is on, this obviously is on, this is off. This is a safety feature, so you can't turn it on both on at the same time. And the reason for that, many of you I'm sure know, is when you run the generator, and the generator is off, so I can do this, and we have no power. Actually, I'm not going to do that because it's going to trip our automatic transfer switch in the house, so I'm not going to do that. But if I turn this off, turn this over, turn this on, and then turn the generator on, it's running electricity, and we don't want electricity from the generator to backfeed into the grid because a lineman could get electrocuted. So that's why they have these safety switches that you can't turn the circuit breaker on unless you turn this circuit breaker off, slide this over, because see, I can't turn it on. It won't allow it. Slide this over, then turn it on. So this would have to be in the off position, and that's a safety feature. So you want a manual, you don't want an automatic because you're dealing with solar. You want an manual transfer switch to be able to shut the grid off and turn on the generator. So it's pretty simple. You start the generator, and it does have its own circuit breaker. The generator does. So you have to flip that on once it's started. And then you just simply off, slide over, turn on. And now electricity from the generator is feeding the home. But it's not feeding the battery because there's a few adjustments to the inverter that you have to do, which we're going to head over there right now. Okay, this is our solar system, and this is where you need to make quite a few adjustments to the inverter itself. So once again, you have your green light, red light. Red light means that the solar system's working properly, and when the green light is out means Noriko or the electric company, we're in a state of brownout, no power, power outage. And it also will show here, see where it says off grid? Wants to work? Okay, off grid. So off grid means there's no power coming from the electric company. We're on solar 100%. So like I said, it's overcast out there today. It's still windy. We're still getting some rain. You see all the debris laying everywhere. We got a lot to clean up. So it's overcast. And we are currently making 1,631. So like I said, you make electricity even during cloudy days. Now, what are we using in the house? Right now, we're only using 367 watts. And that's because we have no TV on. It's basically just a couple refrigerators. I think there's one fan on, and that's it. So we're making more, even during a cloudy day, than we're using. So we woke up today and the battery was around 50%. Right now, it is 70%. So it has gone up from 50% to 70%, and it's 10:27 in the morning. So we are slowly charging the battery. So I would not want to turn on the generator now because it's going to use gas. And there's no sense charging the battery when the sun is putting in 1,232 watts into the battery now for free. But there was times where this was only 200, maybe 100 when we're using 300, 400, 500. And then nighttime, it's making 0. So what you have to do with the solar system. Now, I will say there is a port for generator. See this right here? It says generator. We do not have the generator hooked to this port. It's hooked to the grid because I showed you just a minute ago that it's the same main wire that comes in, and then it just splits off with the manual transfer switch, and you can just switch it from grid to generator power, and then it feeds the same wire into the panel. So that's important to know. So Noriko goes into the inverter through the grid, but so does the generator power because it shares the same electrical line because of the manual transfer switch. So I want to cover that. So knowing that, you have to make a couple settings. You have to go to your battery setting. Now you can see your battery is 200 amp hour. Maximum charge, that's important to know because we're getting ready to charge the battery with the generator, is 80 amps. And maximum discharge is 100 amps. So the handle is for the house, but only 80 amps to charge. I'm trying to get this in focus. So that's good to know. So the first setting you need to do is see where it says grid charge, because it's not generator charge, it's grid charge. Grid. So you have to tick grid charge. You have to check that. Then once you check it, you hit OK, which is the check mark. And now if you went back to it, you'll see that it's ticked. So that's the first setting you have to do if you want to use the generator hooked up the way I have it to charge your battery. The next thing you have to do is here, see where it says grid charge and generator charge. You're going to have to tick one of these, and it's a range of time. So this is 4:30 in the morning to 5:30, 5:30 to 9. It gives you a series of time frame, and you can change it. This inverter is 5,500 watts. We have it set up for 5,000, always a little less, so you don't overheat the inverter. And remember I said I let the system run its course throughout the day, and then around 5 o'clock. So I have it set up at 1700 hours military time. That's 5 o'clock. So you would tick that to say you want the generator to charge the battery between 5 o'clock and 2100 hours. So what is that, 9 p.m.? So from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., we want the generator to charge, or it could be the grid. Either or, the grid is out, so it's not going to charge. So the way it's set up, if you have this ticked, if you're on the grid would charge the battery if need be. But in this case, it's the generator. And then you have to tell the system, well, what percentage do you want your battery to be? And I set it at 100%. I also set the one above 100% too. I can very easily just tick the box, go down, and change it to whatever I want to change it to. So you can see I have it set at 30% because the system automatically defaults and shuts off at 30%. So I put them all at 30% because I want the sun to charge the battery to be the most efficient. But again, if these are ticked on or off, this doesn't matter. This has to be ticked. So what I had to do is at 5 o'clock, I have to come out and hit that, make sure that's at 100%, and hit OK. So now we can go back and look at it. Now we're set up that if the generator's on, meaning it's started, and the battery is not at 100%, it doesn't matter where the battery is, as long as it's not at 100%. So in this case, it's 71%. So it would automatically at 5 p.m. start charging the battery. It would allow the electricity to come in, charge the battery to 100%. Now, if I wanted to put it at 90%, 95%, you can put whatever you want. I just happen to have it at 100%. So what will happen is when you start the generator, and it takes about 3 minutes for this inverter to recognize the generator power, because it says off grid right now. And again, I don't know if this is focusing. Time seeing with my, there we go. See where it says off grid? So it takes about 3 minutes to recognize. So that will automatically turn on, and it will start charging the battery that's currently at 71%. I put it to charge it to 100%, and it will start working to do that. So the next thing is, there's one more setting. Remember, 80 amps it can handle. It's set right now at 40 amps. Grid charge. So I tick that, and I took it up to 60. Remember, it can handle 80. And what that allowed is more watts to go into the system. So it can handle 5,000, actually a maximum of, I think, 6,500 is the absolute max. And it says it over here somewhere. But I normally would feel comfortable about 3,000 or 4,000 watts. So I just kept messing with that amps, moving a little at a time until the generator was producing about 4,000 watts. Remember, the generator can go to 6,000. You don't want to take it right to 6, but I kept messing with that number until we were charging about 3,000 to 4,000 watts. So every time you change these amps up, and 60 seemed to be the sweet spot where it was putting in, I think it was putting in 3,500 watts. And I felt comfortable putting in 3,500 watts at one time, because often when the sun is really, really high, the battery will put in about 5,000. I've seen this as high as 5,000 going in. So I don't want to exceed that, but I also didn't want to take it to 5,000. I think I did 3,500. So obviously, the more watts you put into the battery, the quicker it will charge. So I went with 3,500, and it went from 33% state of charge to 100% in 2 hours. Now, if I tick that up to go to the max of 80 watts and really tax the system, I'm sure I could have done it in less than 2 hours, but I didn't want to do that. So that's how I handled charging the battery. So think about it. You're only using your generator 2 hours a day. Now, a full tank of gas, using it 2 hours a day, I'm going to say it would get probably, to be conservative, 12 hours of runtime. So that's 6 charges from 33 to 100. So that's 6 days of charging your battery on one tank of gas, and I'm sure it would be more than that, because I think if you started your generator and let it run, it would probably go more than 12 hours. I think they say 24, but I don't know if that would be true. But let's just say 12 hours, a continuous run, takes 2 hours. So that'd be 6 days I'll be able to charge this battery on one tank of gas. And then if you have a extra gas around the house in the tank, just fill it up, which actually Wilma and I are going to go out and fill our 5-gallon now. You don't want to have gas sit around too much because it goes stale. So that's a kind of a balance there. But we are going to go ahead and get 5 gallons of gas. I think we're down about a half a tank in the generator because we've only used it for 3 days now. It's about half full. So if you have extra gas, you could extend it with that 5-gallon tank. Every 5 gallons would do 6 days. So if you have a 5-gallon tank, it would go from 6 to 12. So you could see that you could be off grid. If there's a catastrophe and the grid is out and you're not getting enough sun to charge your battery to 100% every day, you could just simply turn on your generator with the system that we have, charge this up in 2 hours. And again, I'm only going 3,500 watts at a time to fill this, and it took 2 hours. I could have taken it easily to 5,000 watts and charged it in less time. And you could really handle all your electricity needs by doing that method because not having electricity is not fun. We have a lot of frozen meat in here. This is our backup refrigerator. And you definitely don't want to lose that investment by not having electricity during these times. The grid, for whatever reason, has been out. Today's day 5, continuous. I feel real sorry for everyone that doesn't have a system backup. If they have a refrigerator, probably all their food is ruined. You have no access to internet. You have no lights in your house. Your water system would stop pumping. You can't flush your toilets. I mean, it's just difficult to live without electricity now. So many people here do, but in a Western style house where the Westerner, AKA me, this was a fantastic investment. But this is limited. No sun, no electricity. So you do have to have the backup, which our backup is the electric company, where if this does not get to 100%, I could do the exact same thing, tick those boxes. The grid would charge the battery whenever I wanted to for as long as I wanted to. That's backup number 1. But when the grid is out, it's been out for 5 days, having that generator as a backup to the backup. And unfortunately, I had to learn quickly because I wasn't prepared. But it does work, and it charged the battery up very quickly. And we've been going into the evenings about 6 p.m. With our battery at 100%. And then we have no worries all night long. Whatever electricity we want to use, we can use. And we don't have to worry about the brownouts. So as you can see, we're at day 5. And we are still out of power. So I have to watch this. Now, it was 71% just a minute ago. It's up to 73. So we're using electricity in the house. So it's handling the house. And it's charging the battery at the same time. We're putting 1,200 watts in. So will that get to 100% today? Maybe. If it does not get to 100%, I'll make the decision if I start the generator. And again, if it's in the 80s, it only takes 20 minutes. If it's in the 70s, it took about 30, 40 minutes. So I'll make the decision to turn on the generator at 5 o'clock because that's what I have it set at. And it will charge the battery. And I'm only running the generator for a few minutes, 20, 30, 40 minutes, not using a lot of gas. But yet, peace of mind knowing that by 5:30, 6 p.m. at night, this battery is now at 100%, even though the sun couldn't get it there. So hope you guys appreciated this video. This was kind of baptism by fire, figured it out. If you're thinking about having solar, or if you already have solar, you might want to consider having a backup to the backup if you are hooked to the grid. If you're not hooked to the grid and you're just totally off grid, then a good choice would be having your first backup as a generator, because as you can see, you can charge your batteries or battery using your generator.